Hi guys, welcome to Grow Up. Today we've got the great Dennis Prager, but we also have another special guest today, our son Liam. He's here because our kids are huge fans of PragerU, and he wanted to ask Dennis a question today. So I'm going to turn it over. First, I'll welcome you. Thank you for being on here today, Dennis.
Hi, Dennis.
My pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you.
So you've had such a monumental effect on youth. I wanted to turn the first question over to one of our kids, and he is not going to give you a softball. He's got a tough question for you. So what do you want to ask him?
I love tough questions.
Why won't you run for office?
I have thought about it all of my life, and I could spend the rest of the broadcast telling you reasons, but in a nutshell, I have no interest in power. I have only interest in influence. So I have only wanted to touch as many people's lives as possible. I decided that in high school. I wrote it in my diary. I want to devote my life to influencing people to the good. That's what I wrote in junior year in high school. So I have devoted my life to that, and my nature, we need politicians. This is not anti-politician. My nature, however, is not that. First of all, it's almost impossible to only say what you believe and run for office. The only exception has been Donald Trump, ironically, and even whether you like him or not, and I do like him. But even if you hate him, he says what he thinks. That is very, very, very rare. And excuse me, sorry. And this is it's not part of my nature. I actually had a Senate committee set up to fundraise, and I couldn't even do that. I couldn't even ask people for money. So you have to know your nature.
Yeah,
It's a good question. It's a fair question. If God forbid the Democrats win the presidency, there is a tiny part of me that thinks I would run for president in 4 years, if only to raise the issues about the colossal challenge to America's future that the Democrats present. But otherwise, I thank God for the ability to broadcast, PragerU, write, and so on.
I think you have one of your first campaign workers over here if you did that. But hopefully you don't have to.
How old will we be in 4 years? You'll be 11 in 4 years?
Yeah.
What are the child labor laws with regard to 11?
You know, that's what they'll clip is that
That's right.
accepting child labor.
Enslaving kids, exactly.
Yeah.
All
So
right,
thank you, Liam. Thank you for asking questions. I will say I think that the best politicians are reluctant politicians. So
no, that is true. No, that is true. Moses was a great example.
Yeah.
All he did is argue with God. I'm not the guy. I'm not the guy. Don't send me to take the Israelites out of Egypt. I'm sorry.
So we have to ask you about the debate. What is your reaction to the debate last night? Who won, why, and what was the memorable moment from the debate?
If you read the transcript as I have, and then I broadcast on my show various clips from both, Donald Trump was so morally, politically, intellectually clear that it was breathtaking. That's how good he was. And I thought he was not good the first time. So I don't say it because I support him. He made it so clear, for example, over and over, you vote, you get Biden, you will have a lockdown in this country. The country will die under this man. And he's right. Lockdown is vile. It is immoral. It is stupid. It is irrational. It is unscientific. And the immorality of it is what gets me the most. The crushed lives, the induced fear, the panic. the broken businesses, the ended livelihoods, the cheapening of the dollar, trillions of dollars printed at government presses. The president made it clear over and over. He wants lockdowns. I want an open country. That's your choice, fellow Americans. Do you want to ruin the country in the name of health, or do you want to open up the country and still have health? And still have some death. That's the way it works. Life has death.
Yep,
that's right.
absolutely.
You made such a great video. I think it was in one of your fireside chats that I watched, where you talk about life is full of risks. This idea that we're being sold, among many utopic ideas that the left likes to sell, free stuff, things like that. You talk about life not being full of promises. You know, it's not all rosy. Can you talk about that a little bit more to our viewers about that? You know, that fireside chat.
I have about 150 fireside chats up at PragerU.com. They're very popular. Millions and millions of people have seen them. I'd never thought it would be as popular as they are, and I'm glad they are. All I do is talk from my heart and my mind to the camera, take questions, mostly young people. And Otto, my bulldog, is I think become the most popular dog in America, which is hilarious to me. And I'm happy to say that his fame has not gone to his head. I can report that with great assurance. What I did was I talked about a lot of these things, but people should look up. I think it's titled Safetyism or something about that.
Yeah.
The purpose of life is to live fully. The purpose of life is not to be safe. That's it's good to be safe on your road to living a full life.
Yep. Some of the most
I don't want on my tombstone, here lies Dennis Prager. He played it safe.
Yeah.
That's not what I want. I want, here lies Dennis Prager. He lived life to its fullest. And I have, and I continue now. I have acted exactly as I did at any other time, the entire time since March. I have gone, in my case, I have gone to friends' homes every single Friday night for a Shabbat dinner with a bunch of friends. Every Friday night since the lockdown began. And I have met with people. I spoke at a rally in April to open up Los Angeles at City Hall. I spoke at the rally. I must have hugged 40 strangers. I live life.
One tomorrow.
I'm sorry?
We're doing one tomorrow here in Tennessee because, believe it or not, they're actually instituting some of these rules, even in a red county here. And it just flies in the face of the constitutionalism that we depend on Republican leadership having.
A new mask mandate in our county.
Everybody has to stand up for like the ability for businesses to be open, for people to be free and be able to make decisions for themselves about what risks they're willing to take, which risks they're not willing to take. I think that's just so incredibly important.
Is that Tennessee-wide or in your city?
It's county-wide that they're doing it.
Is the county include Nashville? Is it the biggest county?
No, it's not.
Nashville
No,
has
it's
a
not.
mask mandate.
They have one too in Davidson, but no, this is Williamson, right on the edge of Nashville, where the suburbs are. It's fully Republican county. 68% voted for Trump in this county, and people are really upset at the mayor over it.
Well, the answer is don't obey it.
Yeah, nobody's going to.
That's what we plan on doing.
By the way, it's a gigantic lie that masks help. Masks don't help. Lockdowns don't help. This is scientific. This is not me, Dennis the layman. New England Journal of Medicine in May. Look it up, folks. New England Journal of Medicine, mask May. They said masks are useless except if you are in a confined space 10 minutes to a half hour with a person closer than 6 feet. Okay.
Yep.
Well, I agree. If you're going to be face to face with a stranger closer than 6 feet for 10 minutes to a half hour, I will allow you a mask.
Right.
Yep. And there's the largest study done yet on masks is a Danish study that was done. And I don't know if you've heard about this. Alex Berenson, who's a former New York Times reporter who's no longer with them, he's been on this from the start, and he's been pressuring.
Yeah, I've had him on the show.
No medical journal will take it.
I'm sorry?
No medical journal will take the study, and that's been their problem. Is no serious medical journal will take the study. It's the largest one. These are published scientists. These are people who are well respected and have published tons of papers, but all the journals are terrified to actually run the study.
Well, anybody who's reported on the Great Barrington study or the statement, where you had thousands and thousands of scientists headed by epidemiologists from Stanford, Harvard, and Yale, I think, or Princeton, and Oxford. Yeah, Harvard, Oxford, and Stanford. Yeah, epidemiologists. And if you tweet it, Twitter locks you out.
Yep.
Right.
Yep,
right.
Absolutely.
I mean, the left has controlled everything from academia, entertainment, and now, we have science in our medical communities being weaponized and politicized. What are your concerns going forward? I mean, where is this train going if we don't stop it?
To something that is reminiscent of a communist country, and I never thought I would say this. I never used the C word, as it were, except to describe the communists of communist countries. But there is no liberalism is much closer to us than it is to leftism. Unfortunately, liberals vote for the people who loathe liberalism, namely the left. We don't loathe liberalism. We protect liberalism, we conservatives.
Right.
And where the left, there is no limit to power on the left. There is no limit. What they will do is they will destroy the economy, then make a state big enough to feed you, but of course feed you poorly. And that is what we are headed to. We are headed to Cuba, Venezuela, that type of thing. We are headed to re-education camps. If you don't say the right things about race, about gender, then we will simply have you re-educated like Mao did. That's what we are headed to. Americans are not intrinsically better than Russians or Germans or Chinese. Our values are better. If Americans abandon the value of liberty and free speech, we will become like the Chinese under Mao, the Russians under Stalin, the Germans under Hitler. That is the way it works. The only difference between an American and a German, Russian, or Chinese under their regimes is our values. If we drop those values, we are them.
Absolutely. And, I love that you talked about liberalism being closer to conservatism than to the left, because they've turned into the most illiberal party in the world. And we are the party, the Republicans and conservatives, that want to protect free speech, protect our rights, protect everybody's ability to be able to be a part of the conversation. We don't want to shut people down, destroy their businesses, burn things down because we don't like opinions. We want to protect these American values, and the left just absolutely does not. They want to tear apart the Constitution. If they had their way, they would rewrite it. They would pack the court. They would bring in new states. They would give voting rights to illegals. And then we would have a country where we don't have a chance at taking back power for decades and decades and decades decades, only after they ruin the country.
That is all correct. Listen, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, at a conference in Cairo a few years ago, where they were thinking of adopting a constitution, she said, I don't suggest the American Constitution. She said, if you want to pick a constitution to model your own, use the South African, which, by the way, is a left-wing book. I mean, it's gigantic. And it's, every right that you could possibly think of, gender, race, all of this. They loathe our Constitution. The left loathes America, so why would they love the Constitution?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I think you and your platform, what you've done, is the single most dangerous thing that towards the left and their agenda. what inspired you to create PragerU, and where is the future of PragerU going?
Well, as I said, I've always just wanted to influence people. I always believed that I had a cure for moral cancer. And I always knew that the big problem is marketing. I had the cure. It's basic. It's a basic, I mean, in 2 words, it's ethical monotheism, which is an ancient belief. God wants us to be good people. And that the road to that is in this great book called the Bible. That's why I've been working so many years on my 5-volume commentary of the first 5 books of the Bible, the Torah. It's called The Rational Bible. It's the best-selling commentary on the Bible in America today. I am proud to say, and it should be, because it makes it all relevant and clear. It's called The Rational Bible. I hope your viewers will get it. Nobody writes a Bible commentary to get rich, so I have no problem in promoting it. So PragerU enables me to get these values out. We have 450 5-minute videos. They come out every Monday. I have only given 10%. PragerU is not about Prager. It's about my values, but it's not about me. But I do give 10% of the videos, I would say. That's 1 out of 10. We have 3 former prime ministers, 4 Pulitzer Prize winners, professors from Harvard, MIT, Stanford, Oxford. They love to smear us as a propaganda engine. Would prime ministers, would Bret Stephens of the New York Times make videos for us if we were a right-wing propaganda machine? He hates Donald Trump, and he writes for the New York Times. We have gays and every race giving courses. They are meticulously checked for accuracy. That's why they hate us, because we're effective. We have over 1 billion views a year, and most of them, 65%, are under 35 years of age. When I walk through airports, it's young people who come over to me, much more than old people. Mm-hmm. That's the power of PragerU. A school just gave an assignment, a voluntary extracurricular assignment in Ohio at a school outside of Toledo. And one left-wing parent objected. So, of course, there's a whole hullabaloo. And HuffPost picked it up and said, look at how terrible this is. PragerU brainwashes kids. So isn't this something the kids will see voluntarily one 5-minute video, and it will brainwash them.
Right.
The rest of the time, they get 1619. They get Howard Zinn. Mm-hmm. They get social justice. Mm-hmm. They get all whites are racist. That's all they get the rest of the time. But 5 minutes from PragerU is a brainwash. What they're to feed us.
They will fight tooth and nail.
5 minutes to reveal left-wing lies.
Yep, and you just gave us a perfect segue into the next topic. Our daughter, who's 11, she's experienced some of the worst political indoctrination and discrimination that I never would have imagined this was real when our daughter was born, thinking about school going in. But in California, she had a white privileged speaker come to the school and say white kids couldn't sit together unless there was a minority present because it would make the minorities feel uncomfortable. And so, of course, my answer to my daughter is, well, you come from a Cuban family, so you're part Cuban, so you can tell all your friends you're their token, so they don't have to worry about this anymore because it's so ridiculous. What they do is they teach the kids to see each other as different, and that's not something that that's the first thing they come to identify with each other as you're different than me by your skin color, instead of looking at their characteristics that they make decisions on in personality. They focus on the immutable characteristics. So my question, actually it's my daughter's question, is all this political indoctrination she's faced in schools. She's had a science teacher say that the planet's going to warm 10 degrees in 10 years, which we had to fight the school on. She's had a science or a Spanish class where they had a poster of Che Guevara in the classroom. okay, because the teacher thought that Che was a wonderful person. They've had stickers promoting sojo.net, which is a social justice website teaching kids how to protest Republican members of Congress. I mean, the list goes on and on and on and on. After I came out as a Republican on Fox, because of my work with celebrities and stuff like that as a director, my daughter went to school that week and was called racist by two liberal people's kids who happened to be white because her dad came out as a Republican. The irony of the fact that we're a Latino family, at least on my side, didn't kick in for these people. So her question is, what is it going to take? What can we do to take back education and at least make it politically neutral?
My sad answer is people should take their kids out of schools. I think the schools are irretrievably damaged.
Yeah.
The left ruins everything it touches: the arts, universities, high schools, elementary schools, late night television, sports, science. There is nothing the left touches it doesn't destroy. It's like a shark. It devours what it sees. So I think people should homeschool or send their kids to a school that has good values. Usually that's a serious Christian or Jewish school.
Mm-hmm.
And otherwise, I mean, if you're in an area where you can fight.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're in a big city, it's lost. The schools of the urban areas are overwhelmingly lost. They're not your kids, among other things, they don't get an education.
Yeah.
They leave believing all whites are racist, but they still won't know the difference between its and it. IT,
Yeah.
yes.
That's
absolutely
right. I mean, the sad reality, and we know this from experience, that even moving to a red county, red state, and trying private school or public school, it is the same NAIS standards, the same stuff that's trickling down and a carbon copy of California. And no matter what you do, you can go to the school board meetings, you can push up against it, you can unite with other parents. It is to no avail. So you are absolutely correct, Dennis. So I want to save parents some time. And that doesn't mean they shouldn't use their voice and speak up. But what other alternatives can we encourage other parents to do? Because there's parents struggling right now. They're working working several jobs, trying to hold on to their jobs. What kind of hope can we offer them to save their kids' education?
I never offer hope when there isn't. I debated a long time ago, should I cheer people up when I don't have reason to cheer them up? And I decided I respect people too much. The schools stink. If you want to send your kids to a school that stinks and gamble that they will come out with contempt for everything you hold, send them to school and send them to a typical college. That is the fact.
Yeah.
Then I ask every conservative parent I meet, Christian, Jewish, secular, how many kids do you have? 2, 4, 3, 5. Are they all, do they all share your values? No. My daughter won't even speak to me because I support Donald Trump. That's a common answer. When did that happen? After her first year of college.
Right.
Yep.
Why did you send her to college? She didn't major in STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. Why'd you send her to college? I made a big mistake. So I'm telling you folks, you want hope? Get your kids out of the schools that are ruining them.
Yeah, it's worse than forced indoctrination in a way, because you're actually paying for it. You're paying for it. So that's what we did. We did
Right.
exactly what you're saying. We took our kids out of school. We're homeschooling them. And
I didn't even know that. There you go.
Yeah, we did.
No
we
wonder
took them
they were so nice and polite and well versed. Yes.
Exactly. And they're ahead in all the core subjects from
Of
their peer
course
group.
they are. By the way, you should tell people are very intimidated, understandably, by the thought of homeschooling.
Mm-hmm.
But it's as you're as involved as I understand it from parents who you're as involved as you want to be.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
Absolutely.
And people have a big misunderstanding too. They think that the disaster that was e-learning with this whole COVID period is what homeschooling it is. And it couldn't be further from the truth. That is not what homeschooling is. There's people that have been doing this successfully for eons.
I honestly think the e-learning was set up to actually scare parents away from homeschooling because they wanted to make it look like it was such a headache and so psychologically damaging to kids that people would be afraid to do it. But I do think a good number of parents actually had the reverse happen where they said, you know what, this system they have and what these teachers are teaching doesn't make any sense.
Broken.
A good example where one of my breaking points was I was listening into an e-learning class. And in that e-learning class, they were telling, my daughter asked about which sect of Islam is more violent, and they gave her the wrong answer. And then she asked about Israel. Mm-hmm. And when she was asking a question about Israel, and the teacher told her that Islam was there first. And so I had to jump in and I corrected the teacher, and my daughter corrected the teacher too, actually, to her point. She said, I was asking because I was curious what was going to be taught, but that's not history. And you can't even find somebody in Islam that will claim that because the Jewish faith was there first. But this is what they were teaching in class.
It was there 1,800 years before.
Yep, exactly. But they weren't teaching that in school. They were actually teaching the opposite, because they wanted to teach the idea that Palestinians had a right to Israel, and that was the path they were going down. This is at a school that is overwhelmingly conservative parents.
In a red county, red state, private school.
Wow.
The warning that you're giving parents really need to hear, if you may not know this is happening at your school, because what my daughter told us when she's at school is that other kids don't pick up that something is wrong here, because at home they're not being taught this. The reason our daughter knew is because we actually taught her all these subjects before she ever went to school. So she knew them inside and out more than, in fact, we had a parent-teacher meeting after this event happened. And the teacher said to us, he said, to be perfectly honest with you, your daughter knows more about these subjects than I do. So she could ask the questions after class, because I don't want it to come off like the student's more knowledgeable than the teacher. And it seems to be happening with all her questions. And I'm like, we should probably learn more about the subject you're teaching, because it's not like she's saying it disrespectfully. She's very respectful with the question. She's like, sir, I have a question about blah, blah, blah. But that's what we have going on in our schools is these are activists. They're not teachers.
And they wouldn't deny it.
Yep.
Their first task is to promote social justice, not teach.
Absolutely.
Right. Yeah, it's beyond change at this point, and I'm so glad that we're on the same page with that, because you are such a knowledgeable figure, and what you've been able to do with PragerU is such a saving grace, because this is all started because of education. I think people are starting to realize that. Why do we have all these angry millennials destroying our values, our country? It all started in the school system, and so we have to break that paradigm and start a new system entirely. And it begins with the parents and reclaiming our values and our role. I think for so long we started handing over morality. The job of instilling morality to teachers, to schools, with those little programs, anti-bullying, things like that. And what did they do? They used that to inject and indoctrinate, bake in their radical sex ed, radical gender identity frameworks. And again, they ruin everything they touch.
I love that line from you. I really do. I have a question that may turn kind of towards a darker tone, but what do you think is going to happen on November 3rd? And what do you think is going to happen in the weeks after November 3rd?
Well, my best answer is if then. I do an if then. If the president wins, there will be massive rioting, I believe. He will suppress it, and there will be bloodshed. I have said for years there's a civil war in the country. I've always added, thank God it's not violent, but the left has promised violence if the president wins.
Yep.
If the president does not win, the country will be ruined. That was as clear as a bell last night. Former Vice President Biden promises lockdown, mandatory national masks, etc. The lockdown will ruin the country, as the president warned over and over, as it has ruined New York City and other places already. The number of businesses destroyed is unprecedented in American history. We will have a depression with inflation, which is very rare. Depressions usually have deflation.
Yep.
But we are printing trillions of dollars out of paper, and we are sending the country into irremediable debt. So the Democrats, and as you point out in your conservative arena, with the consent often of Republicans, the god of safety infects almost as many Republicans as Democrats. Not as many, but oh yeah, everything is worth it to save a life. But it's an idiotic doctrine.
Yep.
Every time we raise the speed limit, we ensure that thousands of Americans will die on the highway. Should we never raise the speed limit? You cannot make policy based on will anybody die. That is not how you make policy.
Yeah, or health. I mean, it's not the government's job to mandate health interventions whatsoever.
It's not the government's job to make almost any interventions. That's the government job to protect us from enemies inside and outside. So that nobody shows up at your house chanting death to you, and if you step out and confront them, you're sent to jail.
Yeah.
Okay. Or you're not sent to jail. You're prosecuted.
Yep.
So the importance of this election cannot be overstated.
Yep. Absolutely. I would say, one of the other issues I wanted to get into is one of our viewers, their name is Julian Atwood. She wanted to know if big tech censorship of conservatives continues, how do you see this impacting the future of social media and its users, and what can be done to stop it?
It's just like the schools. They take over and they suppress dissent.
Mm-hmm.
The left there is no exception in the history of the left suppressing dissent. The left does not believe in free speech. Nowhere since Lenin to this day, there was not one exception to the rule. I was at the Russian Institute at Columbia University. Communist affairs was what my field was in graduate school. I studied under Zbigniew Brzezinski, Carter's national security advisor. I speak Russian. I know the left better than anybody in America except for David Horowitz, who grew up a communist, and he knows them better. That's how well I know the left. And I'm telling you, the left never allows free speech because they will never succeed unless they suppress dissent, because it's all based on lies. Everything the left stands for is based on a lie. Like America is systemically racist. Whites are all racist. White privilege. The president said they were good Nazis. The president of a Jewish daughter, Jewish son-in-law, Jewish grandchildren thinks they're a fine Nazis. I'm supposed to believe that. But if you read the New York Times, you do believe that.
Right.
We did get a comment from a viewer that I just wanted to bring up. They said they were disappointed in the lack of inclusion of a Cuban-American film director in PragerU videos. So I was just going to drop that in there. But
no. I take it seriously.
I was going to mention, when you're talking about suppression and how it's the same thing, the education, it's just in a different form. It's our adult education, what we're being informed and fed. Our entire reality is being based off of these lies, curated especially for us. And one of the things that's happening in regards to schools that parents should know about is when you're searching for homeschool online options, you are going to be given the most radical left online school options. So that's something to be very mindful of. The K through 12 that gets marketed is the same as social justice curriculum. So it's something parents should be mindful of. And my question for you, Dennis, is Prager able to, on your new online forum that I'm a member of, and you can tell parents about that they can join, is that something that we could use as a forum to share conservative curriculum, constitution,
right.
Literature, books, text?
People who have homeschooling use our stuff constantly. We are thrilled that they do. Bill Bennett's son a few years ago said to me, he went to Princeton and he learned more at PragerU than at Princeton. And that was half the number of videos that we have today.
Yeah.
You
Right.
can truly learn about life and the world between the videos and the recommended readings, and then discussing these videos. No one knows. There's no way you can know how much work every video goes through and how much fact checking. I'm involved in it, and I'm not the only one, but I'm very heavily involved in every word that is done in every PragerU video.
Are you concerned about the integrity of the election coming up?
Yeah. One of my closest friends got 2 ballots for his daughters. He lives in LA, as I do, but his daughters have both lived in Houston for 10 years.
It's crazy.
So they could easily vote in Houston and LA. No one would know. No one would know.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Because
absolutely insane.
they didn't request a ballot in LA. They're just sent it. We have an autistic son. He has never voted, and he got a ballot.
Unbelievable. It's unbelievable what they're doing. And, this all plays in together, with big tech and all of these election issues and media and the entertainment industry, all of these pillars in academia, they fall under the left. And at what point on the right do we have to just say, hey, we admit we lost this battle, this initial battle, because if we don't admit that, we can't move on to the next battle. And really the next battle in my mind is we need to create our own separate ecosystems, which is why I'm such a huge fan of PragerU and why I always tell people about it for their kids and their families, because we need our own ecosystems. We can never trust them with distribution. We can never trust them to create entertainment that reflects our values. We can never trust them to report honestly, and we can never trust them with our children's brains. So, the only track and path forward is to create these parallel ecosystems that are totally different in terms of values and that reflect our values. How important is that in your mind? And what do you think we need on the right to accomplish that?
I agree 100%. And in effect, if they win in this election, it will have to further our creation of an alternate America, a better America. After all, nobody moves to blue states; they're all moving. They're all moving to red states.
Absolutely.
And then they ruin the red states with the values that they just fled. That ruined their own state. These are the idiots who moved from New York to Florida and California to Arizona. They're idiots. Oh boy, I can't live here anymore. I'm going to go to a red state and then screw it up so that people have to leave that one in 20 years. But we have to create. Yes, that is correct. We should create alternate schools, churches, and synagogues that reflect our views. I played on my radio a rabbi. I'm Jewish. I'm a religious Jew, and I played on the radio. I only mentioned that so people will know this is not anti-Jewish that I did this. It's pro-Jewish that I did it. I played a Reform rabbi on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the year, chanting Ruth Bader Ginsburg's words as the prophetic reading of that Sabbath, of that actual Yom Kippur.
That's unbelievable.
No, unfortunately, as you know, it's not unbelievable.
Yeah.
And it's happening in the Catholic Church, and it's happening in the Protestant Church.
That's right.
Yeah, all of the values that I think people who are actually adherents of the faiths are just being trampled at every turn. I tell parents all the time, the way that you talk about academia is the way I talk about Hollywood, and it's sort of unique hindsight from me looking back on my career in Hollywood and working with all these, Oscar-winning actors, actresses, and these people hate you. They hate your values, hate who you are, and they fundamentally want you to not exist. So if you're consuming their products anyways, and you're letting your kids watch their movies, you are the only thing keeping them alive and keeping these people going who want to destroy you. So instead, empower other people who are in alignment with your values. If you don't do that, you're going to end up in these situations, like you said, with schools where you're paying people to ruin your children and turn them against you. And they do it in very subtle ways, which is why the left accomplishes what they've accomplished. Whereas on the right, we tend to be very overt, like with things like PureFlix that, you know, are well-intentioned and they fit a niche, but they don't attract any new people. They don't spread our values to people who don't already have them. You know, and that's what the left does. So I think that's why it's so important to me.
Again, you've got a person who agrees with you. I don't understand why people are watching the NFL or the NBA. I don't understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Let's cheer for people who think you are a piece of crap.
Yeah.
After all, if you're a racist, you're a piece of crap. How do you cheer LeBron James? I don't understand it. Is getting points for your team more important than America or even your own self-respect? If you're white, you're a piece of crap. I would love to use the S word, but I can't. That's what LeBron James announces. It's what the NBA announces. And then you have all these white fans cheering people who loathe them. It is the sickest display of self-degradation I am aware of. Hey, telling the world how despicable I am, and here's my money and my applause. I don't get it.
Right. I think, you know, the world would look very different for conservatives, for people on the right, if we stopped supporting and contributing to our own self-degradation.
Yeah, well, let me end with this, because this is a point I've made for years. Good people are divided into three groups: those who fight, those who help the fighters, and those who do nothing. Those who help the fighters are as important as the fighters, because without supplies, the fighters can't fight. But unfortunately, the biggest group is those who do nothing.
Yep. And that's a great way to end. That's a great way to end. We can remind everybody that we will fight for you. Dennis will fight for you guys. We will fight for you guys. And we appreciate every one of you guys who help us fight and who help Dennis fight. Dennis, what you've done, I just have to tell you before you leave, it has had such an enormous, incredible effect on making this world a better place and helping to reflect our values in our children's eyes and their minds, and help them learn about what makes this country so special. The values that get imparted on our kids through PragerU videos are the values that my grandparents imparted on me, having fled a socialist country, and then my mom fled a socialist country. These are the values that we were taught, that were ingrained in my head, that made me feel so lucky to be an American still to this day. So thank you for everything you're doing. We will always have your back. We will always fight for you and believe in everything you're doing.
Thank you, Dennis, so much.
Thank you. I'm very touched.
Thank you for coming on with us today. Thank you, guys.
Dennis.
And we will return next week.